But let me dive into the policy implications on this a little bit. I'm joined by a dynamic duo that we've had before on this show. Avik Roy, president of the Foundation for Research on Equal Opportunity, and he was a healthcare policy advisor to Mitt Romney in 2012. And Jonathan Cohn, senior national correspondent for the Huffington Post, who specializes in healthcare and social policy reporting. The good news about both Avik and Jonathan is that they can disagree without being disagreeable. So that I appreciate. Jonathan, since the law is going to get battered here, where do you fall on why we're at this point where it appears that, at least as far as the exchanges are concerned, they're not working the way they were supposed to?
Well, I would qualify that carefully by saying Obamacare is a big, ambitious program, and it's got some things that are working and some things that aren't. I think what we are seeing is that they have been successful at helping people to get health insurance. Millions of people have signed up for coverage. And even now, despite all the headlines about the increases for next year, a lot of people are going to be able to get very affordable coverage on the exchanges, and it'll be good coverage with comprehensive benefits. At the same time, we are clearly having some problems. And you got to remember, when we talk about Obamacare, we talk about it as one program, but it's really 51 different markets, one for each state, plus the District of Columbia. And we are seeing, particularly in some states, insurers have found they are not attracting enough healthy people to offset the cost of the sick. And so they are raising prices, they are pulling out of markets. And so you have some states with some real serious problems. I think the worst that you're hearing about is Arizona, where there's really only one insurer in the Phoenix area, and premiums are really jumping.
I want to point this out more, Avik. Let me put up this graphic here. It looks like almost half, some 20-plus states have seen at least one insurer pull out. Obviously, Arizona is an outsized example, but I'll give you another battleground state, North Carolina. I was studying up on this for moderating a gubernatorial debate. They only have two insurers. They've had somebody pull out, but they really have one dominant insurer. Is there a way to fix this without suddenly forcing younger, healthier people onto the exchange?
There are. I mean, we've talked for years on, and sometimes on your show, about some of the regulatory aspects of Obamacare that have driven up these premiums. And it's very important to focus on that because the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, in 2010 predicted that 21 million people would be in the exchanges in 2016. It's only 12 million. So the law is falling short in terms of enrolling people because these premiums are so high. And that's driven by regulations that the ACA imposes on the insurance marketplace that make insurance more expensive. The
regulations that you're talking about, though, are a minimum standard of coverage. Is that what you, and in order to meet the minimum standard of coverage that the law is requiring, insurers are hiking premiums.
And minimum is it's a misnomer in the sense that it's a baseline that it's created that's very high. And because it's baseline is very high, again, what those plans have to cover exceeds what a lot of younger and healthy people need in terms of health insurance. So if you're younger and healthier and the insurance is costing a lot more, you're like, well, I don't go to the doctor that often. Why am I spending $3,000 a year, $4,000 a year on health insurance that I don't use?
Jonathan, is it that simple that if they lowered the standard, if they allowed more of a basic, didn't force some of the, bare bones mandatory coverage that the law forces, if they let that go, would you see more competition? Would it be that simple?
Well, it wouldn't be that simple. I mean, look, Avik is absolutely right. A main goal of the Affordable Care Act was to go into the individual insurance market and say, we want to make these plans better. The plans that were being sold, they frequently had huge gaps in coverage. They wouldn't cover maternity, they wouldn't cover mental health. Sometimes the prescription coverage was lousy. And remember, also, insurance companies could turn away people who were sick before, right? I mean, they could say, if you have a pre-existing condition, we'll turn you away. So the law ended all that. Those are regulations. When Avik talks about the regulations that were imposed on the insurance, those are regulations. They did make insurance more expensive. If you take those regulations away, then yeah, it would get cheaper. But who would it get cheaper for? It would get cheaper for younger, healthier people who could get insurance before, but it would become more unavailable and more expensive for people who are older, for people who are sicker, and people who bought policies. They'd think they were fine, but then all of a sudden, what happens? You have a mental health episode, whatever, and you end up with these huge bills.
Yeah, not necessarily. So you could have a much more market-oriented exchange where insurers were free to price plans more fairly for younger and healthier people who don't have as much health care consumption, but subsidize the people who need the help, the poor, the sick, the vulnerable.
Let me throw out, and I want you both to respond to this. If there was no Obamacare, premiums would have increased, probably the same. Is there any way to could you actually say, and Jonathan, I'll start with you, and Avik, you respond, would our premiums be any lower today if there was no Obamacare? And the reason I ask it this way is, could it be that there's nothing that can be done as long as the insurance industry is operating as a free market?
You know, I don't know that I didn't put this so much. I mean, everybody loves to blame the insurance industry for the premiums, but a lot of the problem we have here is that the high cost of healthcare in this country is sort of baked into our whole healthcare system. It's the prices we pay doctors, it's the prices we pay hospitals, it's what we pay for our drugs. And, you know, the Affordable Care Act does, you know, there's a whole other part of the law that tries to address that in different ways. If you talk to liberals, you get a set of solutions. If you talk to Avik, you get another set of solutions. But, you know, your fundamental point here is right, which is that healthcare in the United States is expensive, and when you give people insurance that's going to cover their bills, it's going to be expensive.
This goes to the whole thing. Unless you do unless you do sort of fee for service.
Well, you've got
to. If you go totally to a fee for service, is that the only way to truly bring down costs? That if we operate this way, we're always going to see these rate increases, whether it's the government involved or just insurance companies?
We definitely have to reform the way we pay for health care. And a big part of that is giving patients more control of their health care dollars instead of insurance companies, employers, and the government. But on this question that you asked about how health care premiums would have evolved if not for Obamacare, if we say it was 6% a year, which would have been standard health insurance premium growth, that's about 24-30% over a 4-year period. With Obamacare, it's more like 110%. So it's much higher as a result of the ACA than it would have been otherwise for the people who are buying insurance on their own.
All right. What is the biggest legislative fix, Jonathan, that a President Hillary Clinton could realistically get done that might stop this sticker shock?
Well, you know, I mean, look, I think most liberals, if they had their druthers, would make the program more generous. You know, they'd add to the subsidies, help a little more with out-of-pocket costs, which is something Hillary Clinton has proposed. The key is, can you find some kind of bipartisan cooperation on this? And, you know, Avik before was talking about making it possible for younger people to pay less and older people to pay more. You know, that's not a reform most liberals like, but you could imagine a deal coming together, right, with conservatives and liberals and each getting a piece of one and the other in a normal, functional healthcare system. So I think the real question going forward is there that kind of political environment where, like in the old days, Democrats and Republicans could say, look, let's do a little horse trading here. We'll do a little bit of what you want. We'll do a little bit of what we want. We'll make some technical fixes that nobody minds, and that could actually make a difference.
Look, I'd love to get into that aspect of it because I get you, Jonathan. I don't know if there is that type of bipartisan cooperation, but let me ask you this, Avik. If there's a President Trump, which would probably mean a Republican Senate and a Republican House, what would a new plan look like in a year?
Well,
do we have a good idea?
At my new think tank, freeop.org, we've actually published a whole 100-page health reform plan called Transcending Obamacare, so people can go to the website and look at the details. But the question is, does Donald Trump have the commitment to health reform to see it through? We all know health reform is hard. It usually fails. So I'm not optimistic that some grand replacement will happen if Donald Trump.
Do you think more likely some Republicans are going to have to accept tinkering with Obamacare?
I think that they should. I think that if they're responsive to their constituents, we have to say, look, this is the law of the land. Let's try to make it better for the people who are harmed.
Avik Roy, Jonathan Cohn. Look at this. We can do policy in a presidential election. Who says it can't happen? Anyway, gentlemen, thank you both. I appreciate it. Coming up.